good day everyone. Good day, Miss Opina and classmates. Today we are going to talk about structuralism. Structuralism is one of the most influential intellectual movements in the 20th century, which embraces a wide variety of intellectual disciplines, including aesthetics, anthropology, sociology, psychoanalysis, and most especially linguistics. Structuralism is a philosophy and method that developed from the insights in the field of linguistics in the mid 20th century to study the underlying patterns of social life. In the social sciences, the structuralist mode of analysis wanted not simply to identify structures, but rather to look behind or beneath the visible and conscious designs. When I say conscious designs, it is the beliefs, the ideas, and behaviors of an active human being to expose how those designs are in fact are the outputs, the effects, and the consequences that are generated by underlying causes, hidden mechanisms, or a limited number of deep structures that are universal to the human mind. So, like what I said earlier when I said structuralism was developed from the insights in the field of linguistics, let's further understand what structuralism in linguistics is. Structuralism in linguistics is a descriptive study of language, meaning it is a method that aims to analyze meanings in terms of their underlying structural laws. Now, there are two types of structuralism. The first one is American structuralism. It is a movement that is greatly influenced by behaviorism. That will be tackled by Miss Hazel Echalar. And the other one is the European structuralism that we are going to tackle today as well. European structuralism was directly influenced by one and only Ferdinand de Saussure. It was an approach to linguistics as well. Ferdinand de Saussure is a French who founded the modern structuralist method of analysis in linguistics. All right, so today we are going to talk about the European structuralism. It's all about what language is and what are the dichotomies or the contrasts or the separations that were used in analyzing and interpreting language based on him or based on Ferdinand de Saussure. So there are four dichotomies or four separations that supports the European structuralism or linguistic structuralism. The first one is long and parole. Second one is signifier and signified, which will be discussed by our further discussers. Third one is paradigmatic and syntagmatic. And the fourth one is synchronic and diachronic. First, let me talk about this long and parole real quick. Long for de Saussure is a system in the head of the native speaker. Long has got to do with the society. The meaning cannot be completed in the head by one individual alone. It will be fully complete or fully understood by one community, unlike parole that has got to do with speech outside. In other words, parole is what the individual speaks, like how the particular style of that speech was and what kind of language were used in the speech when it was spoken, something like those. Alright? While long is the language system shared by the community and fully understands by the community. Now, Ferdinand de Saussure preferred long, unlike parole, when it comes to analysis of language because it is more subjective and it doesn't have like right or wrong. It doesn't have a defect, something like that. Now let's move on to the signifier and signified, which will be discussed by Raymond Santiago.
So we all know that structuralists perceive this world in the form of structures. Structuralism is a new school of thoughts that analyzes the underlying principles and components of literature to establish a relationship between them. So with the help of this established connection, critics draw general conclusions about different works of an individual which has produced that work. So now let's go to the syntagmatic and paradigmatic relationship or analysis. So syntagmatic, from the word syntagm, which means chain, it is an analysis of text that involves the study of linear progression of narratives. So this syntagmatic relationship is one where signs occur in sequence or parallel and operate together to create a meaning. So to make it easier definition of syntagmatic, it is more on the how it was structured, the sentences, how it was structured, what are the order of the text, and there are rules that is governed by these sentences. And remember that it is in the linear progression or in the horizontal progression. So the horizontal is from right to left or left to right. Just remember the keywords for syntagmatic is order of the text and the horizontal or linear. However, in the paradigmatic, it often uses commutation tests like analysis by substituting words or the same type or class to calibrate shifts in connotation. Paradigmatic relationship is more on where an individual sign may be replaced by another. So it is in substituting or transposition of words. That should be in the same class, should be in the same group or category. So the keywords for the the paradigmatic is the substitute. And if the syntagmatic is horizontal, then the paradigmatic is vertical. So when you say vertical, it is from top to bottom or bottom to top. To better understand the syntagmatic and paradigmatic analysis or relationship, we have here the examples. So the first one is the word hat. So in the word hat, the letter H has a relationship with the letter A, and A has a relationship with the letter T to produce the word hat. So this is the structure of this word. So from consonant to vowel and then to consonant. So here in another example, as we can see, they have the same structure. So hat and pat, they have the same structure of HAT, then PAT. So consonant to vowel to consonant. So we can't say that it is syntagmatic if it doesn't have the same structure or the same rules like this example, like T, H, and A. So unlike the first example, which is hat, the second one is consonant, consonant, and then vowels. And it is not the structure like the previous one. So we can't really say that it is or it has the syntagmatic relationship. Okay, so in the next example, so if the previous one is more on words, then this is sentence. So as you can see here in our example, the spurned lover drank her tea slowly. Then the second one is the frightened child held the puppy tightly. So they have the same meaning. They have different meaning. They have different actions. However, if you look closely, they have the same structure of words. Like the, it is first came from the article or started from the article, which is the word da, and then the spurned is an adjective, and then lover is a noun, and then the word drink is a verb, and so on and so forth. Just like the second example, which is the frightened child held the puppy tightly, it starts from the article and then the adjective and then the noun and then the verb and so on and so forth. So that is the structure of this sentence, and this is their syntagmatic relationship. As I've said earlier, it is more on structure and the rules. However, as I've said also too earlier, that the paradigmatic is more on substituting. So I'm gonna show you like this first example, which is the word hat. We can substitute the word hat into the word pat. So we substitute the letter H into the letter P. So we could substitute it because they have the same category, which is the consonant. And then for this second example, which is hat and hit, so we substitute the letter A to the letter I because they have the same category, which is vowels. But we cannot substitute the consonant into a vowel because they are not in the same group or the same class. like this example, which is IAT. And also in the sentences examples, which is the spurned lover drank her tea slowly, and the frightened child held the puppy tightly. So for the first, which is the spurned lover drank her tea slowly. So here we choose the word spurned to be substituted with another adjective. And when we construct the sentence, it's now the jaded lover drink her tea slowly. So we could use the word jaded because it is also an adjective like the spurned, like the word spurned. But we cannot change it into like this one because direct is an adverb. And we should just focus on the category of adjective. In this next example, which is the frightened child held the puppy tightly. So in this example, we are using the word tightly to be substituted with the word warmly, because warmly is also an adverb like the word tightly, so they are in the same category. Unlike this example, so this is wrong because the word tight is an adjective and it is not in the same group as like the word tightly, which is an adverb. So here I have the axis of the syntagmatic and paradigmatic. So as I've said earlier, the syntagmatic is more on the horizontal, which is in the top, as you can see, and then the paradigmatic is more on the vertical, which is in the left side. So the syntagmatic of this table is that they have the same structure, like the article and then the noun and then the verb and then the conjunction. Preposition. It is a preposition. And the paradigmatic, as you can see, it was divided into their own category, like the the that, the dog, cat, man. So the dog, cat, man is the noun. So we can substitute the word cat into the dog. Like in this example, a dog fell in this chair. So we can substitute the word dog into the cat. Like a cat fell in this chair. So that is the paradigmatic relationship of this in this table. But how can we use it in the stories? The syntagmatic and paradigmatic. So here I have the example of stories from mythology. So Oedipus killed his father Laius, and then the second one is Echalar killed his brother Polynices. So the syntagmatic of these stories, they have the same structure, that they killed some relatives of their own, while the paradigmatic relationship of this is that they killed their someone in their family. Like for Oedipus, he killed his father, while Eteocles killed his brother. So the syntagmatic is more on the narrative or the theme, and then the paradigmatic is who were the one they killed. So let's go to the connotation and denotation. So it also part on the structuralism because this is more on the meanings. So for the denotation, it means that it is the word from the dictionary, or it is the exact, specific, and concrete meaning of a word. So this is the meaning that you will find in a dictionary. So the keyword is the dictionary. So for denotation, letter D for the dictionary. While the connotation, it refers to the meaning suggested or implied by the use of a particular word beyond its literal meaning. And it also impacts how readers perceive the overall meaning of what a writer or speaker is trying to communicate. So for the connotation, it is beyond the literal meaning. If the denotation is the literal, the connotation is the beyond of it. So for example, the word rose. So in the denotation, if we search for it in the dictionary, it means it is red, sweet smelling flower. While in the connotation, it could have a different meaning, like it could be a love, passion, or romance. Second example is the word blue. So in the dictionary, it means a color that has the same hue like the clear sky. But the connotation is, it means that it is feeling low. So for example, for the word blue in the denotative, we could say that Alice wore a blue jacket. But if it is in connotation, we could say that Alice was feeling blue because she got a low score in her exam. For the third example, we have the word chicken. So the literal meaning of chicken is a type of bird or a domestic fowl kept for its eggs or meat. But the connotation of this word is coward. And then the last one is the word golden. So the denotative meaning is that it is colored or shining like gold, or it is consists of gold. While the connotative meaning is that it could be something special or wonderful. For example, in the word golden, for the denotative meaning, we could say that Jello dyed his hair golden. And in the connotative meaning, we could say that Jello said to Maria, "You're so golden." And that's it for the denotation and connotation. Just remember that the letter D is denotation that stands for dictionary, which is literal meaning, and then the connotation is more on the beyond of its literal meaning.
So hello, I am going to discuss the different kinds of sign. So we have three different kinds of sign. The first one is symbolic, the second one is iconic, and the third one is indexical. So as you can see on the screen, the meaning of symbolic. Symbolic, a sign that bears no obvious relation to the thing that is signified. When we say iconic, it is a representation. So as you can see here, here is the car, is an image which directly resembles the real thing. When we say indexical, it is a representation. That image suggests the presence of the car. So let's discuss about the symbolic first. So as you can see, the meaning of symbolic, the signifier does not resemble the signified. It is arbitrary. So that the relationship must be learned. Language in general. Example, alphabetical letters, punctuation marks, words, phrases, and sentences. Numbers, Morse codes, traffic lights, national, and flags. So in symbol or symbolic, it should be learned. It must be learned by someone so that we can understand fully the sign. And when we say icon or iconic, the signifier is perceived as resembling or imitating the signified. Example, recognizably looking, sounding, feeling, tasting, or smelling. Example is portrait, a cartoon, or scale model, onomatopoeia, or metaphors. So in iconic, as you can see, let's go back to the example of iconic. So representation of the car. So in our first look, we can say that the sign is directly connected with the sign. As we can fully understand first the meaning of the sign by looking at it without a shallow learning, unlike a symbolic. So that is icon or iconic. The third one is index or indexical. When we say index, the signifier is not arbitrary but is directly connected in some way, physically or casually, to the signified. The link can be observed or inferred. So as we can see, let's go back to the example of indexical. So indexical representation the image suggests the presence of a car, or so it is a second sign. For example, when we look at the sign, we can say that there is a presence of car, but we can see no car. So by just looking at it, we can say that there is another object that is present. So that is the different kinds of signs and the difference of them. That is all. Thank you.
Assumption. Structuralists believe that codes, signs, and rules govern all human social and cultural practices including communication, wherein communication can refer about sports, education, fashion, friendship, or others. Each is systematized combinations of codes or signs governed by the government. So, the basic assumption of structuralism is that its particular object of cognition can be viewed as a structure, a whole, the parts which are significantly linked up and which as a whole has a significant function in a larger social setting. Methodologies. So the first one is Vladimir Prop. So he illustrates how a story's meaning develops from its overall structures given logical and proper sequence. He is interested in the relationship between characters and narratives. So he argued that stories are character driven and the plots develop from decision and action of the characters and how they function. So the second methodology is Gerard Jennett. So he developed methods of analyzing story structure to uncover its meaning. So this method is peculiarly imitable to literary criticism, which is a discourse upon a discourse. So the strength of structuralism is that this theory does focus on the author's intent and thus focus on an objective interpretation without clouding the text with subjective or emotional interpretation. Meaning, it enables us to approach the text historically or structurally in a disciplined way. No emotions, no bias in feelings towards the text. So it is objectives, it transverse barriers of time, say culture or interest. It is dominant as the search for principal order, coherence, and meaning. So the structuralism has three weaknesses. So the first one is difficult to know who controls the meaning. The meaning of the text is not in the reader, so it would be little confusing because it cannot be controlled by anyone. So the second one, reader looks only at linguistic structure and is not permitted to have an emotional attachment to the text. No own understanding. There is no freedom to express your emotion towards the text. It only focuses on the structure, not on the deeper meaning of the text. The last one is not open to different interpretation. You are not allowed to give any comment out of the original meaning of the text. As I have said, there is no freedom to express your own idea because it sticks with one and same criticism.
Good day, everyone. Today we're going to talk about structuralism. Linguists try to reconstruct language on the basis of the similarities that were found to exist between languages thought to be related historically to those dead languages. In short, during 19th century, scholars in linguistics worked from a historical, diachronic perspective. Structuralism is two kinds. One is European and the other one is North American. In North American structuralism, a group of anthropologists describing the fast disappearing American ancient tribes, they found that there was no methodology for them to follow in order to describe the found languages. Based on Leonard Bloomfield (1887 to 1949), North American structuralism centers in what people actually say. There are seven main tenets of North American structuralism.
Number 1, linguistics is a descriptive science. It describes that what people say and not what people should say. Number 2, the primary form of language is the spoken one. There are three reasons behind that should support these statements. Reason number 1, not every language has a written form. Number 2, everybody learns an oral language. And number 3, the spoken comes first, then the written one. Number 3, every language is a system on its own right. Language should not be described in terms of another language, but rather it should be described on its own terms. Number 4, language is a system in which smaller units arrange systematically to form larger ones. These linguistics propose a procedure in which they begin analyzing the smaller units and clarifying them, and describing the patterns into which they have combined to form larger units. Number 5, meaning should not be part of linguistic analysis. Bloomfield and many other structuralism followers consider meaning as an abstract and unobservable, therefore unscientific. Number 6, the procedure to determine the units in language should be objective and rigorous. North American structuralism rejected traditional definitions of, for example, a noun as the word that refers to persons, animals, or things. The definition is based on its meaning. In this respect, they provide two observable criteria for defining the terms of language. The number one is form and the other one is distribution. Number 7, language is observable speech, not knowledge. Language and parole were rejected as unscientific abstractions. The main objective would be to make a taxonomy of language based on the observable samples of speech.